Hello there everybody, Sam's Trains here, welcome back to the railway and welcome back to another video, this time all about saddle tank engines. So I reckon most of us could quite easily recognise a saddle tank from quite some distance, but I thought I would kick off today's video just briefly explaining what they are. So saddle tanks are an inverted U-shaped tank which sits on top of a locomotive boiler, and they're quite handy for small locomotives because they allow them to carry an awful lot of water, and they're quite efficient as well because they hug the boiler. The boiler actually slightly preheats the water in the tank, which obviously stops all of that heat escaping and makes them very efficient. There are one or two problems though. First of all, they make locomotives very top heavy, and I expect that's the reason why Stanier didn't use them in his big passenger tank engines, because obviously they might have been a bit unstable. Apparently they were a bit of a servicing nightmare as well. They were quite difficult to clean and access, and presumably the boiler would be difficult to access as well because you've got these big tanks in the way. Either way, they were very, very successful on small locomotives and shunting locos and industrial locos. They were often used. So today I've chosen 6 of my favourites to show you. I really hope you enjoy learning about them and seeing them run. We're going to kick off at the turntable, so let's go there straight away and I'll show you the first 2 engines. And yes, we have a double header to start with. So I've decided to set up quite a lot of saddle tanks on the turntable, some that I'm not going to be running, but I've just put them out there so you can look at them because, yeah, I love saddle tanks. One of them, of course, in the shop right now is not a saddle tank, so see if you can guess which one it is in the poll. Congrats in advance to anyone who could tell. Anyway, the first 2 engines I'm going to be running are, of course, the 2 Pecketts. We have the B4 in the front there, which is the 060 Peckett, and then the much smaller, and some would say more cute, 040 W4 Peckett. I decided they would double head today for a good reason, because there's a shipment of wagons, as you can see here, quite a big one. I don't think one of the engines on their own would manage it, but maybe they would, I'm not sure. But they're going to go onto the turntable, going to get turned around, and they will head over onto the inside line to pick those up. So let's do that straight away, and while they do, here's a little bit of history on the Peckett locomotives and the company that built them. So Peckett & Sons mainly produced locomotives for collieries, ironworks or similar industrial premises. They did this very successfully for many years until 1958, when very sadly their last ever steam locomotive was produced. In 1961 the company was taken over by the Reed Crane and Hoist Company, which also went out of business before very long. The B2, that's the big one, was first introduced by the company in 1905. It was one of 3 variants of the Peckett B-class, all of which were similar 060 saddle tank engines. It came as a development of the earlier B1 design from 1880. The W4, that's the little one, was a much older design. It was introduced back in 1885 and they were built for around 20 years or so. The company produced several variations of their 040 design, ranging between the W2 and the W7. This example, the W4, had 3-foot 3.5-inch driving wheels and a 20-inch piston stroke. There we go, coupled then. So it's quite a big train. I'll be interested to see if they can manage it together. Let's see if they can. I reckon they should though. They're very heavy locos, of course. They've got metal saddle tanks, in fact, which is quite unusual. Okay, well obviously they can manage it quite easily too. So there you have it, double trouble with the Pecketts. I was thinking there's no reason why I couldn't do 3, because I obviously do have a 3rd Peckett, another W4. Obviously a bit worried about living so dangerously as to couple 3 Pecketts together, but one day I probably could. Anyway, all the wagons are going by for you. I thought I would let you see them all. There we go, and there's a bit of a ex-Great Western break on the back there. So there you go, the double Peckett train. And as you can see, quite impressively, the 2 locos run at very much similar speeds. I think the W4 is perhaps a little bit faster, but there's really not a lot in it. So they're great to run together. I can highly recommend doing it at home. There we go. All my modern wagons there as well. There we go, bit of a shot of the wasp stripes on my B2 there. It's quite an unusual look, isn't it, that, for a steam loco? Like it though, I'm not complaining obviously. How dare there be wasp stripes on a steam loco? No, it looks alright. I wouldn't want it on every model, but once in a while it's alright, isn't it? Very good. Right, I'm going to bring those to a stop there then. There we go, let them have a bit of a break. They will be pulling again shortly. Oh, I didn't stop them in the centre of the shop very well, did I? No problem. Anyway, like I say, they'll be running again in just a second. But for the time being, let's return to the turntable and pick off the next loco. Ooh, I wonder which one it's going to be. I already know. Okay, so the next saddle tank of the day is going to be this one. It is the 1361 class, and I would probably call this one my favourite saddle tank, if only it ran a little bit better. But visually, yeah, I think this one is my favourite. It is the DJM one, believe it or not, but if you haven't seen my review, check it out. It is really quite impressive for what it cost. Anyway, what's the scenario with this one? Well, some coaches have come uncoupled on the main line and they've been abandoned there. It's obviously quite dangerous, and I don't know what controller, fat or otherwise, has allowed such a thing to happen. But of course we need to clear them off, and so the 1361 class here is going to do the job. So while I get her onto the turntable and off onto the main line, here's a little bit of history of the class. The beautiful 1361 class was introduced in 1910 when 5 examples were produced at Swindon Works to the design of George Jackson Churchward. They were intended for shunting duties around docks and places like that, and they were therefore designed to negotiate extremely tight curves. Many aspects of the design at the time were pretty old-fashioned, as it was based on a much earlier class, the 1392 class I think it was. But when more were built in 1934, many of these dated elements were discarded, and such builds were fitted with Belpaire fireboxes and pannier tanks, which made them look a lot more like the standard Great Western pannier tanks did. Nonetheless, all 5 1361s survived for well over 50 years, although only one does remain in preservation. Okay, hopefully we've got them. And I can take them to safety now with the 1361. Oh, if it can manage them. Oh no, it's come back. Like I say, the performance lets it down a little bit, but it's still a lovely looking loco, isn't it? Okay, there we go, she's off. I've got to admit though, it's a strange sight, isn't it, heading a train like this. A ghostly white engine, or grey I guess, but yeah, it's a very, very light grey, isn't it? I'd be very interested to know how sort of long they kept these liveries after they'd been photographed in them, because surely they'd be filthy dirty within, what do you reckon, a couple of hours of operation? Wouldn't take long, surely. But in model form, in the nice clean loft, they can stay clean forever, and so obviously these liveries make a little bit more sense, but I'd love to learn more about the real liveries. Okay, let's bring that one to a stop then. There we go, and I will show you a close-up of her. Yeah, unusual, but quite beautiful, I think. Obviously, if you guys disagree, do make it known. That is absolutely fine. For now, though, let's go back to the turntable one more time and pick up the final loco of the first half. Next up then, something a little bit different. This is a vintage saddle tank, and I believe this could have been the first ever ready-to-run saddle tank made for the British market. If it isn't the first, it's certainly one of the first. It's one of the 1950s trying ones. I'll talk to you more about it in just a second, but as you can see, I've set up some quite old-fashioned box vans, as well as a nice old-fashioned Southern Railways brake van in one of the sidings for her to go and pick up. So while I'm getting her coupled up to the train, I thought I'd just tell you a little bit about the model itself, because it doesn't really have any specific prototype, I don't think. So this little tank engine is a real beauty. It's not a particularly realistic model by any stretch of the imagination, but I really do have a fondness for this one. So a lot of people say that this resembles the SECRS class, so it's very possible that Triang designed it to look a bit like that. But this one was released way back in the early 1950s, I believe, and when it was first released it was a clockwork loco, and that's the reason why the body is so tall on this. I think it had to be that tall in order to fit in that clockwork mechanism. It does mean though that it's much taller than it should be if it's going to be an SECRS class, but I guess that's a good reason to have altered the height of the body. Either way, as you can tell, mine's a really good runner. Mine is obviously not clockwork. They eventually did away with the clockwork mechanism and started producing them as electric locos in the end, which is just like what I've got. But yeah, it's a beautiful model, good condition, quite a good runner as you can tell. And like I said a second ago, I'm really fond of this. I spent a lot of time working on it, trying to fix it up, and for that it has got a bit of a place in my heart. So as you can see, the loco is quite sensitive to points and that sort of thing, and it does seem to cut out quite easily. However, you can also tell that it's really quite smooth, quite powerful as well. It's managing all these wagons without any problems whatsoever, and very impressively, it's running still on all of its original parts, all of which work just perfectly fine, even today. Yeah, I love running these old ones. I just run them all day and they don't complain at all. So I hope you enjoyed seeing that one. That's not one I show very often. Okay, let's have a run with these first three then. As you can see, it does actually get over the express points if it's got enough speed, which is pretty good for me, obviously. Otherwise, I'd be very frustrated by now, I guess. And there we go with the Pecketts as well. Alright, nice. I'll give you a few more shots then, and then I'll move on and show you even more saddle tanks. So let me know, which is your favourite. Do you like saddle tanks or do you like side tanks more? It's quite a difficult question. I don't know if I might prefer saddle tanks. Either way, make it known in the poll and we will see which answer comes out on top. The Peckett and the 1361 train staying together quite well. This is quite a few laps in now and they're still, I don't know, maybe a foot apart from each other. It's not a big difference. Oh, they must be friends. How lovely. Apologies for the noise, of course, from the Triang, but they are noisy naturally. It's not a fault. It's just the way they are. Awesome, so I really hope you enjoyed that. That is the first half done and dusted then. I'm now going to put these away and I will get 3 more saddle tanks out for you and tell you all about them and get them running. So hope you enjoy it. I'll be back in just a second. So here comes the next loco then. This is an absolutely beautiful loco, one of my favourites actually, in this beautiful Great Northern green. It is of course the J13, and these were designed for the Great Northern Railway by Henry Ivat in 1897. The class was based on the earlier J14, also known as the J53, and it was intended for shunting. The class became part of the LYR in 1923 when they were reclassified as the J52. Depending on where they worked, locomotives were fitted with condensing equipment so that they could run underground. More specifically, those working in the London area would have had these fitted, presumably because they would have been the engines of the London Underground, or some of them. 85 were built in total over a period of 12 years, but only one has been preserved, and that's number 8846. So I'm definitely a huge fan of this loco. As you can see, it just looks beautiful. And it's quite a puller as well, 5 coaches without any wheel slip. That's not too bad for a loco this size without any traction tyres. I removed the tyres off this one, so this one's running without any rubber. And as you can see, it's reasonably strong. Love it, absolutely love it. Next up then, it is a very lovely tiny little saddle tank, everybody's favourite. It is the LYR Pug, and these were first introduced way back in 1886, so Victorian very much so, and they were also known as the LYR Class 21. Also intended for shunting work, as many of today's locos have been, the class can be traced back to the purchase of 3 saddle tank engines ordered from the Vulcan foundry in 1886. Following the success of these, John Aspinall placed an order for more to be built, to a slightly modified design though. 60 engines will be built in total, and when they passed into LMS ownership following 1923, they were given the power classification of 0F, which is of course the lowest you can get. So despite not being very powerful, they were perfect for tight radius curves and for nimble shunting duties. The first withdrawals took place in 1910, though as many as 23 survived as late as 1957. In total, only 2 have been preserved, while the remainder very sadly were scrapped. So there you have it then folks, quite possibly the smallest saddle tank engine you can buy. Maybe the Peckett or the Hatton's Andrew Barclay are smaller, I don't think so though. Anyway, one more saddle tank to show you, so let's get to it. Last up then, I couldn't rightly do a saddle tank running session without including this loco, so here it is of course the J94, and these originated from the LYR when they purchased them from the War Department following the end of the Second World War. Before this, the class were known as the Hunslet Austerity 060Ts, and they were first introduced several years earlier, in 1943, by the Hunslet Engine Company, and they really became a standard for British shunting during the Second World War. The initial choice for this loco had been the LMS J13, but the Hunslet design was eventually chosen because of how simple it was. In total, 75 J94s worked for the LYR, and 2 of them have been preserved. So there you have it, ladies and gentlemen, the Hornby J94, and as you can tell by the size of the tanker train it's hauling, it's an incredibly beefy loco for its size. In fact, I probably overloaded it slightly because it does run one of those M-type motors, I think, which are the type that like to burn out, but so far so good with this one. As you can tell, I've not run it too fast, which hopefully should help it. But there you have it then folks, saddle tank engines. What is your favourite saddle tank engine? Let me know down in the comments. Did I run it today, or is it something completely different? I'll also put up a poll so you can let me know which of the saddle tanks I ran today was your favourite. Obviously I can only have 5 maximum answers on the poll, so one of them I will miss out. However, if your favourite was the one I'm missing out, do let me know down in the comments. For the time being though folks, I really hope you enjoyed this one. Saddle tanks are cute things, aren't they? They do look lovely, most of them. I can't think of a saddle tank that I could say I don't like. So good, I've enjoyed that one, really enjoyed it actually, and I hope you have as well. That was a lot of fun. It was the first time I've really gone through my collection looking for saddle tanks, so that was a nice thing to do. And like I say, I hope that gave you 20 minutes of reasonable viewing pleasure, seeing these saddle tank engines, and hopefully I'll do more running sessions in the future if you'd like me to do more, so do let me know down in the comments if that's something you'd like to see. For now though, thank you so much for watching, thanks for your time, thanks for your company, and I will see you very soon for some more videos and some more reviews. Okay folks, take care.